Welcome to the podcast episode of College Football's regular season review. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review pretty much the season, talk about the awards, some stat leaders, all that kind of good stuff to end the regular season, and we head to bowl season where I'll try to make a prediction in every single bowl game. So let's go with the ACC. Not the best year for ACC in my opinion. It was overall a bad year. So Clemson did win the ACC conference. They went 11-2, lost to Notre Dame and South Carolina, cost their chances at the playoffs. North Carolina went to the ACC championship game. They were looking good for a majority of the year. Then they just kind of fell apart. 3 straight losses with their offense that was dominating much of the season really kind of struggled. The defense has just not been good. But Drake May had a great season. If North Carolina didn't go to that losing skid, May probably would be a Heisman finalist. Florida State really started to turn into the right direction. They went 9-3. Jordan Travis had a nice season. Trey Benson is their running back. And their best target was Johnny Wilson. Florida State went 9-3, very solid season. Now, the rest is kind of what you see out of the ACC. NC State finished 8-4. So did Duke and Pitt. Syracuse started like 6-0. They kind of fell apart to 7-5. Wake Forest was 7-5. Louisville 7-5. The worst team was Boston College. They finished 3-9. Then Virginia went 3-7, but very kind of special case scenario. They didn't play the last 2 games. Virginia Tech went 3-8, so really not a good year for the ACC. And Clemson is the conference championship over there. The Big Ten, it was really dominated by the Eastern Division. Ohio State, Michigan, they were battling it out to see who was going to go to the Big Ten championship game. And Michigan ended up winning against Ohio State, really took control in the second half. So we're going to go with Michigan. Michigan really starting to turn it up with their program under John Harbaugh. Cam McNamara was originally the starter, and then he gets benched for J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy plays really well. The rushing attack, Blake Corum was the best running back in the country. He had 1,463 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns in 12 games played. Donovan Edwards, over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground himself. So the running game has really carried Michigan. Their defense is top 5 statistically, and really just physically dominated opponents. Ohio State, their offense is second best points per game statistically. C.J. Stroud had an incredible season, 37 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions. Maya Williams and Travion Henderson, they really just couldn't get in the same field together for a while. Travion Henderson got hurt, so it was basically Maya Williams and Dallin Hayden kind of took over. Emeka Ibuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. were the two top targets. Jackson Smith and Jimba got hurt the first game, really just kind of disappeared after that. Penn State also went 10-2. Penn State, a typical Penn State year, just could not beat Michigan and Ohio State. A team that won the West was Purdue. West was kind of interesting. So Purdue went 8-5 with Jeff Brom, their head coach, who by the way is leaving for Louisville. Illinois went 8-4. It kind of, now people did expect Illinois to play a little bit to win a couple more games because the rate they were going, but they kind of went on a mini skid. Minnesota went 8-4. Iowa went 7-5 with a terrible offense. Maryland went to 7-5. The worst team in the Big Ten was Northwestern. They only won 1 game. The Big 12 was an absolute gauntlet. TCU went 12-1, but Kansas State won the Big 12 title game. Max Duggan had a phenomenal year. Kendre Miller, over 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and some solid weapons. Now, Kansas State ended up winning the conference championship game. It was close all game long. However, Kansas State did win in overtime. where TCU decided to not quarterback sneak on a fourth down. That's a story for another day. They had to use two quarterbacks. Adrian Martinez started the first half of the season. Adrian Martinez was looking really good. Then he gets hurt. Will Howard takes over, and Howard plays just as well, if not better. Deuce Vaughn had another great season. And Malik Knowles and Phillip Brooks were their two top targets. The rest of the conference of the Big 12 was kind of odd. Texas was inconsistent, but they finished 8-4. Texas Tech, Oklahoma State went 7-5. Kansas, they make their first bowl game since 2008. Baylor and Oklahoma both have horrific seasons to their standards, especially Oklahoma, where they just really did not make that many improvements over the course of the whole season. Just a very ugly way, just an ugly season for the Sooners. Brent Venables' first year, yes, a lot of talent is gone, but still very disappointing. The SEC, Georgia ran with it. They had one of the best defenses again. Stetson Bennett, plain iffy. Like there's games where he plays very efficient, very good, but there's some games where he just doesn't play as well. Now, Georgia's offense is very well balanced. They have guys like Kenny McIntosh, DeJuan Edwards, and Kendall Mills running backs, and their two top weapons are Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. Now, who won the West of Division will be LSU. Jay Daniels had a pretty okay season. You know, there were some times where he was struggling to complete passes a little bit, but Jay Daniels didn't turn the ball over that much. So that was the one positive. But they did lose the SEC championship. Alabama went 10-2. Bryce Young played pretty well, but just wasn't the best season for Alabama for their standards. They were just not a disciplined team considering what you see usually of Alabama. Tennessee, their program was kind of in a resurgence. They won 10 games. Hendon Hooker had a phenomenal year. Guys like Jabari Small, Jalen Rice, running backs, and Jalen Hyatt just dominated the entire season. Tennessee's defense was pretty bad, so Georgia handled them, and Spencer Rattler had his way with that Tennessee's not so good defense. Speaking of Spencer Rattler, he had an okay average season at South Carolina. But South Carolina's season was defined by 2 wins, back-to-back weeks to end the season, with Tennessee and Clemson. Mississippi State and Ole Miss, both of them finished 8-4. Kentucky finished 8-5. Will Levis is somehow still a first-round pick, even though he wasn't that good. Florida, Missouri, and Arkansas both make it to bowl games, finishing 6-6. Auburn and Texas A&M were kind of the train wrecks of that division, especially A&M, where we all figured out that Jimbo Fisher is a pretty overrated head coach. And Auburn they had to put Cadillac Williams as interim head coach because Brian Harsin got the banhammer, which was pretty inevitable. The Pac-12, very interesting. USC looked to make it to the playoffs as their offense with a three-headed monster of Caleb Williams, Travis Dye, and Jordan Addison, but Utah ended up winning it. Utah really kind of took their revenge. Utah was supposed to be a potential playoff team, but that just did not happen. So Utah beats USC twice. Washington had a great season. They went 10-2 with Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. Had a phenomenal year. Wayne Talapapa running the football, and a two-headed monster of Jalen McMillan and Roman Duzzi as wide receivers. Oregon, they went 9-3. Bo Nix as quarterback had a nice season, but his scrambling ability was limited throughout the season, so he really wasn't as effective. Oregon State had a great year, 9-3. They kind of played musical chairs with Ben Gulbranson and Chance Nolan, but they still averaged 30 points per game, and Oregon State just found ways to win as the season went on. UCLA went 9-3. A lot of 9-win teams for the Pac-12 this year. Very good season for them. Dorian Thompson Robinson and Zach Charbonnet had great seasons. As Chip Kelly is starting to get that UCLA program under control. The last team to win the bowl game for them is Washington State in the Pac-12. The worst team is Colorado, 1-11. They were just awful, and Deion Sanders is headed there, which is odd. Now, I think Colorado should turn around quick because Deion is just going to attract recruits because of his name alone. That is just inevitable. So, in the next year or two, Colorado is going to get some athletes on the field. Arizona State and Stanford both fired their head coaches. The American Athletic Conference, Tulane ended up winning it. Tulane had an excellent season. Michael Pratt, very good season for him. Tajay Spears as running back, and some targets like Deuce Watts and Shea Wyatt as they won the conference. Cincinnati 9-3, kind of expected that. They did lost a lot of talent. And they're also losing their head coach Luke Fickell, who is on his way to Wisconsin. UCF won 4 games, or no, not 4, 9 games. They went 9-4. They won 9 games. Houston, kind of expectation was them to kind of win the conference, but their defense was just bad, combined with their great offense, and they finished 7-5. The worst team was South Florida, which they almost beat UCF, by the way. And I'm going to go the rest of the conferences rather quickly. So Troy ended up winning the Sun Belt Conference. App State had a kind of disappointing season. The Mountain West Conference, the winner was Fresno State. They started the season pretty rough, but they finished strong, and they won their conference. Fresno State really starting to kind of get that grip of that conference. For the Conference USA, UTSA won the conference 2 straight great seasons for UTSA's football program. The Mid-American Conference, this conference was just a gauntlet. Not really many good teams. Toledo ended up winning. So let's go to the college football awards. The Heisman went to Caleb Williams. Really not a surprise, as he had another world this season, a full season this time, and with the weapons that he just had the best total stats, county-wise and efficiency-wise. He also won the Maxwell Player of the Year, Walter Camp Award. Just dominant. The Davey O'Brien Award went to Max Dugan. Now, the Best Defensive Player of the Year award went to Will Anderson. They kind of gave him that due to his name alone. Will Anderson wasn't really as good, but there also just wasn't that many big names for defensive players of college football this season. Just not a whole lot. So at that point, you just kind of have to give it to the biggest name. The Doug Walker Award went to Bijan Robinson. I probably would have given it to Blake Corum, but no discredit to Bijan Robinson. He had another ridiculous season, and he's heading to the NFL. And he has the brawn and the skills to be a great NFL running back. So watch out for Bijan Robinson. The Biletnikoff Award went to Jalen Hyatt. No surprise. Just best overall stats, county-wise, touchdown-wise. He was Hendon Hooker's go-to weapon. The John Mackey Award went to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers had an odd season. He still had a good season, but man, a lot of teams really took care of him. So the best center went to this Michigan guy, Olusegun Owatimi. I'm not going to try to spell his name. He also won the best interior offensive lineman too, so he might go to the NFL draft very soon. The Buckus Award went to Jack Campbell from Iowa. The Jim Thorpe Award went to Travius Hodges Tomlinson from TCU. Other awards, the Lou Grosso Award went to Christopher Dunn from NC State. The Coach of the Year went to Sonny Dykes, and the top assistant Coach of the Year went to Garrett Riley. They both earn it, but man, then they both blow it in the playoffs. No, not the playoffs, the conference championship game. Once again, do I have to repeat myself? Just call quarterback sneak on those 2 last downs. I mean, damn. The Burlsworth Trophy, the best walk-on, was going to be between Aiden O'Connell and Stetson Bennett, and Stetson Bennett won. I think he earned it. Not to say Aiden O'Connell didn't deserve it. He had the better numbers, but Stetson is playing for Georgia, a national title contender, no questions asked. So that's it for the college football portion of this episode. Let's talk about college basketball real quick. So the rankings came out. Purdue is number 1 again. They've been number 1 2 years in a row. So they reached number 1 spot. Virginia's 2, UConn is 3, Alabama's 4, Houston 5, Tennessee 6, 7 Texas, 8 Kansas, 9th Arizona, and 10th Arkansas. Some teams worth to mention: Miami and Virginia Tech are ranked. TCU's ranked. UCLA is 82. Mississippi State's undefeated right now. So far, pretty nice December of college basketball. But we all know the fun really starts in January when we get all these conference plays and where we get these high-octane matchups. The biggest really college basketball news was Texas head coach Chris Beard got arrested. Yeah. Texas Longhorns might be in a train wreck. Who knows? Some memorable games. Arizona had their way against IU. Tennessee ended up beating Maryland. Wisconsin beat Minnesota in a very, very close one, 78-75. Alabama beats Houston. Purdue does the bare minimum against Nebraska. Not really too happy about that performance. So that was kind of the most memorable games on that Saturday. And some incoming games, some intriguing ones. Wednesday, we're going to have UCLA and Maryland. And Saturday, we're going to have IU versus Kansas, Alabama versus Gonzaga, Houston versus Virginia, and Tennessee versus Arizona. Also, UCLA versus Kentucky. So Saturday is going to be a very fun week for college basketball. So that sounds to be it for this episode of the college football review of the season and what's been going on. Do I want to do NBA? Yeah, I'll do a little bit. I'll do a little bit in NBA. Why not? Right now, it seems like it's Boston Celtics versus everybody else. That seems the trend we're going. Tatum's playing like an MVP. Jaylen Brown's averaging 26 points per game. Just that whole team is clicking. This has been a very interesting NBA season. Really, only there's one team that's kind of ran away with it. The number 1 seed in the West is the Pelicans. Zion Williamson's averaging 25. Brendan Ingram's doing well. CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Jonas Valanciunas. Just a very solid squad. And there's some teams that are out there. You have the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, the Suns. The Sacramento Kings are the 5th seed. So, I wouldn't say eventful NBA season so far, but it's been very interesting. And it seems like we now have a team that seems like it's probably going to walk through and win a title, which looks like the Boston Celtics. So, that's going to be it for this episode, and thank you for watching.